guys, welcome back to Cats, Chats, and Coffee podcast. It's your girl Liv here, and I have Alex with me. We are so excited to be back again recording episode 2. Say hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
She's so excited.
What a nice intro. Hello, girlfriend. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Yeah. I mean, I think we can both vouch and say the nerves are still flowing.
Absolutely.
We are equally excited and, anxious about this whole opportunity, but I'm doing
can't
okay.
Believe we are on episode 2 already. It feels like, after so many months of us planning this and chatting that we would have already like 55 episodes in our bank, but officially episode 2. I am so happy you're here. I'm so happy we're doing this.
I know.
We have a good one for you guys today.
Yeah, we really do. It's going to be a good one.
Yeah.
How are you doing? How's your week been?
Oh, it's been okay. I was like, what day is it today? It is the weekend, and it is a little chilly outside, but that is okay. I had a little bit of a rough week, not going to lie. The 2023 has been very interesting so far. January, February has been a little bit more chaotic mentally than they say that the new year's supposed to start in April with Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, and that this whole January 1st, New Year's in the dead of winter when things are still asleep or dead.
Supposed to be hibernating.
I definitely don't feel like this is my new year, new me.
Yeah,
my new year starts when the sun comes out.
I totally agree.
Yeah, I definitely have been having a little bit of a rough go. Like I was saying, I've been doing a lot of reflecting lately. I've been noticing a lot of triggers show up in this year, but I think that it's all good. It's all good stuff.
They always are.
Yeah, I went to the gym on Monday with my dad.
Oh yeah? How's your body feeling?
Yeah, God, girl. Anyone who goes to the Fit for Less in Bedford, you would have seen like me and my dad there at like 6 o'clock in the morning.
That's actually
pumping
so
iron.
Cute though.
Yeah, honestly, it's good. It's nice for us to bond. We went to the gym for like 8 months together for all of last year pretty much, and then I got COVID in April of 2022 after I got back from Jamaica, and it just took me out for 10 days. So
no gym then.
When you fall off the wagon, it is so hard to get back in.
It really is.
And so I just made a conscious decision to not go back right away and to start walking and doing things more outside because the weather was getting better, obviously. And then I officially decided to maybe go back like 2 times a week. And so
which is a good start.
Yeah, I have the worst DOMs.
Oh, she was waddling out to see me this morning when we were about to run to get our coffee. First thing out of her mouth is, I am sore as hell.
Yeah, I look like I have a stick up my butt right now.
Anyone who pushes their body, whether it's sports or exercise, anything, you know the DOMs though.
Yeah, and for anyone who doesn't know DOMs, the acronym you might hear people talk about, it's delayed onset muscle soreness, which means that you're working out and moving your muscles, and then the following day and
you feel all the pain of it.
It's like a different kind of
Day
pain.
2 is always the worst one for me. Day 2 and day 3 are let me fall down the stairs.
Well, we did arms on Monday, and then on Thursday morning we did legs, and I lifted. I'm like a baby. I'm lifting 5 pounds here, guys. I am not Mrs. Beast over here, but
that's still great.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there are muscles that I forgot existed, and but that's okay because I play basketball and I'm walking and I'm trying to go back to the gym and be healthy and move
Stay
my body
active.
But it's really tough. But you want to hear something really funny that happened this morning?
I would love. She's been holding this funny story from me,
and it's probably not actually funny.
Well, I'm sitting here and I'm I know Alex's humor. If I don't even laugh, obviously I'll laugh for the podcast just to make it
now
feel
I
better,
feel like we've set it up and it has to be funny. I'm oh my God, it is not even that funny. So anyone who doesn't know, I'm blind. Not really blind. I wear contacts.
Basically blind.
When I don't have my contacts in, obviously I'm not seeing past, my hand stretched out from me. I can see. I can see. It's blurry. So I get up this morning and I am in an apartment where I am directly across another apartment. You can see the roof
through the windows.
The other apartment.
Yeah.
And so I'm there I open my curtains. It's Snow White in the morning with the birds chirping. I open my curtains, no contacts in, and I start to get dressed. I get my sweatpants on. I'm wearing sweatpants. They're hiked up to my boobs, like looking like
such a grand
Family Matters. What's his face? Urkel, Steve Urkel.
Oh my God.
I don't have a bra on. I've got nothing. Get this. I also just put a charcoal face mask on. So
what we're getting is she was looking hella cute this morning.
Hella cute.
Yeah.
Sweatpants, nothing else except sweatpants hiked up to my nips. My hair's in a bun, and I don't think I brushed my teeth at this point. And then I threw on a face mask because, girl has to throw on her morning face mask.
Yep.
And I look down, and I'm like, oh, I think I've got a little pimple on my chest. So I'm standing in front of the window, naked, picking at my chest.
And?
No contacts in.
I already know where this is going.
I look up. 3 guys are on the roof. Directly across from me. And I'm talking not old men. These are 20-something-year-olds.
Yeah, the young guys.
Cute guys. On here I am topless with a
face mask on.
I'm looking like Shrek's wife on a Sunday morning.
Oh my God.
I drop down
literally in the window.
Fall down. Yeah. Army crawl across my bedroom into my closet, shut the door, literally dying, thinking, I've literally just flashed these young, cute workers.
Yeah. Potential future husband there. Yeah, looking her best.
Oh my God. And that was literally my morning. And I just thought to myself, while I'm still on the floor now in my bathroom, heart pounding, I'm like, this is typical. I don't even know if they saw I put my contacts in to see them clear. But yeah, needless to say, that was definitely not my proudest moment.
Okay, well, that was a funny story, guys. But also the amount of times that this has happened to Alex.
Yeah.
I think
this isn't the first
you guys
time.
are just hearing this now, but I've heard at least a couple of these stories. So this is what makes it funnier.
Yeah.
I think it'd be even better if it's the same guys every time.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're probably just standing outside your window waiting for your morning adventures.
They must know I'm the naked girl in the window.
That's that hot Shrek-like girl that just stands topless in the window and pretends to not notice us.
Yeah, that Friends episode, the naked man. I don't know.
Oh, the naked neighbor.
Yeah, the naked neighbor. But the funny thing is that not only has this happened to me, this happened, but on the opposite side of things. I had once opened my window to a bare ass of a dude standing on the roof, taking a piss on the roof with his bare cheeks, looking me dead in the face. I am like, what is happening here? This is just a naked exchange back and forth. Here, I'll show you mine if you show me yours.
The thing that alarms me the most is that he's just
pissing on the roof?
Pissing on the roof, and all the workers and people who are paying him are okay with that. I mean, obviously they probably don't know.
I've just exposed them. I'm not going to give the address.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's
seriously.
completely put them out
But
there.
anyway, enough about me, girl. How are you doing? How has your week been?
That was comical, first of all. I mean, similarly to Alex, I also had a week. Definitely been going through it this week. And I feel like it's funny because we are either always on the same trajectory in that sense, or we're complete opposites, where one of us has a great week and the other is what the fuck is going on? But yeah, similarly to you, a lot of triggers have been coming up, which we both know is a great thing, but it doesn't necessarily always feel great in the moment. So yeah, it's definitely been a week. I'm excited to just be here. The end of the week, it's finally the weekend, and we got our drinks, and yeah, we're about to dive into a chatty topic for sure.
Oh yeah, all things chatty.
All things
Definitely
chatty.
What are you drinking?
Okay, so this morning, so we went to Cortado out here, and I decided to get myself an iced Americano because I'm an iced coffee gal.
Yes, you are.
And yeah, I mean, after the week I had and just waking up exhausted this morning, I was like, give me that good shit. Give me that straight coffee. I just want it so bad. What do you got?
Well, what's in it? What's in your cup?
Well, it's a nice Americano with vanilla and oat milk.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Vanilla
She's tell all the ingredients.
Yeah, tell all the deets.
Yeah,
didn't you get a double? I heard you get a double shot.
I did. Well,
yeah.
I mean, look how ginormous it is,
very
right?
dark.
It
the
is.
Coloring is very dark.
Yeah, so I will say, we're going to do our rating. I'll do my rating and then you can share yours.
Yeah, rate yours.
I would say now that I added a little bit of sweetener from your place.
But that's cheating. How was it before?
Okay, so when I took a sip at the coffee shop, I would give it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
I love iced Americanos specifically for the fact that you get a strong coffee taste, but I still need that like little, you guys can hear my ice cubes jiggling below.
Jiggling?
Jiggling, I don't know if that's what you
What?
shimmying.
Yeah, shaking?
I don't know,
They're jiggling.
Stirring.
Definitely jiggling.
Something's happening down there. So I just got a single shot of vanilla in a double iced Americano, so maybe my sweetener to like
coffee
ratio wasn't great, and then oat milk obviously, which just makes it nice and creamy. But yeah, then we came back to Alex's and I topped it off with a little bit more vanilla sweetener in it, and I do like it much better.
Bumped it up to like an 8.
Yeah, it's like an 8.5 out of 10.
Wow, that's good.
I like it now.
So anyone going to get the same order, then make sure you do like 2 shots vanilla.
No, shot and a half. Don't do the 2 shot.
Shot and a half.
Yeah, that's the key. Well, listen, if you're like Alex and you like sweeter drinks.
Yeah, we're very different.
We're very different, yeah. But I like mine to have a strong coffee taste, but I don't like, you know when you drink a strong coffee and your tongue just like immediately feels like it's like caked with coffee?
Mine feels like that right now.
Well, mine does too. But like when it's a really, like if it was a black coffee, like my tongue just tastes like asshole, man, and not the good kind. Like,
how do you know what asshole tastes like?
Do we want to go there?
We will go there.
I have absolutely eaten ass.
I have not.
This is not at all what the topic is today, guys.
Let's move on. Yeah.
Tell us about yours. What'd you get?
I have a large here too. So what did I get? I got a caramel, not caramel. I'm not American. Caramel, for anyone who wants to argue that.
Specifically.
A caramel latte with oat milk. First drink that I had of it, I gave it like a 5, 6.
Yeah, she wasn't happy.
And then I let it kind of settle. I don't know if it needed to be stirred up a little bit more, but as I've gotten into like the mid drink of it and it's cooled down a little bit,
better?
Yeah, I definitely think I like it a little bit better. I feel like I have not really found my drink. And like I have at Starbucks, and we'll talk about that if we ever do a Starbucks run. It's
I'm sure we will.
Very weird. Not very weird, but it's different and is very sweet. And so for me, I think, I'm all about the mochas and the caramel macchiatos and all those, toasted vanilla things like that.
Like the hot drinks.
Yeah. So it's definitely it is a good cup of coffee. It's really expensive though to go to any of these. It was like $17 or $16
for 2 coffees. Yeah.
For 2 coffees. So
and like they're big, but also, yeah, I don't know. That's quite expensive.
But I do like the vibe. I think Cortado is a really great place. They do have it's like a tasting bar, so you can like book coffee tastings and different notes of the different beans and the roasts and things like that.
I'd love to be like that much of a coffee connoisseur.
Yeah.
But I'm more of like just drink it. Yeah. And then shit it out.
Yeah, you're drinking an iced coffee and it's like -10.
That is one thing about me, guys. I will always choose an iced coffee over a hot
I feel like
coffee.
you're either an iced coffee person or you're a hot coffee person.
Yeah.
Me, I kind of like both. I will get an iced coffee. I definitely like the ones from Tim Hortons.
Those are the worst.
Mine's like the roasted hazelnut.
But see, now that I know that you're more of a sweet coffee flavor gal, I totally understand that. Because if I go to Tim Hortons, I either get like an extra espresso shot in it, or I have to specifically ask them to like cut the sweetener. It's too much.
Well, the coffee itself is usually burnt, so
that's also true.
So you have to mask that disgusting burnt Tim Hortons coffee that we always we kind of like learn to love. It's like it's gross, but it's like what you're expecting when you get there.
Yeah.
You're like drinking it and you're like, oh, it's a little less burnt today, but it's on the burnt scale anyways. Anyway, it's quite funny. But yeah, we're going to, for the coffee part of Cats, Chats, and Coffee, we're going to try to get these like independent local coffee shops. Obviously the Starbies and the Timmy's and the Second Cup and all that are great, and those are like our go-to.
We'll do those eventually.
Yeah, but I think for the most part, we want to share with you guys like more of the different places that you can check out. This one is off of Gary Martin, across from the BMO Center in West Bedford area, off the Hammonds Plains Road. So anyone who hasn't gone there, like definitely check it out. It's actually
also a cute spot.
Yeah, it's a great place for people with laptops and stuff.
Yeah, and it's always bumping. We've only been there like 2 or 3 times now, I think.
It's always busy.
It's always busy.
Yeah, so check it out, guys. Cortado. Yeah.
Cortado.
There you go.
Yeah, so we got our coffees, we did our little spiel, we're, getting things started for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, we won't procrastinate too much more. Let's kind of get into what today's topic is going to be. I'm sure you guys are dying to find out, as are we. Yeah, so for today, it's going to be, like I mentioned, it's going to be chatty. We are just kind of going to share some of our experiences with you. This one's going to be a little bit more focused on Alex and Alex's story, and don't get me wrong, I'll be here chatting and implementing lots of my experiences and stories as well. But yeah, today's topic is going to be about when things fall apart. And I think all of us have been in a situation, at least once, multiple times, where you think you finally got everything figured out. You think you're finally on track. Maybe it's you started a new relationship, or you started a new job, or I don't know, you're going to school for something that you're really passionate about, or whatever it might be. And then out of nowhere, things kind of just plummet. They fall apart and crash and burn. How can I make this sound positive? No, just
well,
kidding.
I don't know. I think that's just the reality of life. Everyone listening probably is going to be like, yeah, I
immediately.
You know, what's the opposite? When things go up, they must come down. Or when you hit rock bottom, there's only one way to go, and that's up. So it's
so true.
It's the duality of the world that we live in, for sure. It's just, you don't have to sugarcoat that. Things do fall apart, and they'll fall apart 25 times over again before you make it through this life.
God, yeah. Obviously, like, what we'll be sharing today is just some things that we've gone to from like to this date, but we already know that there's going to be so much more to come from here. But yeah, I think it's a relatable topic because everyone has a story and multiple stories in that sense. So yeah, when things fall apart, and then kind of we're going to chat also about where to kind of go from there. And when you get to that rock bottom point, like, what are the feelings and how do you kind of choose to pull yourself out of that and pick your pants back up? I don't know why I'm saying socks.
I think it's socks.
Okay, I was like,
pants work too.
Who like hits rock bottom and loses their pants?
If it's me in the window across from those guys, it's probably definitely my pants. I have
to sweatpants
or
up to the
that
nips.
guy whose butt was right in my face. His we'll pick his pants up.
Yeah.
But
yeah. So pick your pants back up and get your shit back going. But yeah, Alex, let's dive a little bit into it. Let's hear.
Yeah, so I think a second part of this is like the episode of the episode of the podcast. Episode 2 is finding your purpose when things fall apart, and I think that a big, I guess, theme of my life, specifically my adult life, has always been about my purpose. I think that anyone who is a little bit open-minded or self-aware will get to a point in their life where they start to ask themselves, who am I? Why am I here?
What am I doing?
And
where
then
do I go?
What's my purpose?
Yep.
And, you know, we talk about a midlife crisis. You know, you're 50, 40 years old, you're having a midlife crisis, you've kind of lived through your whole life and specific things have come up and you've had traumas and childhood experiences, and then you kind of hit that whoa, like those questions start to arise and you're like, am I really doing what I feel is fulfilling me and filling my cup and making me feel like I am having a reason to be on this earth? And for me, that happened quite early on in my life. I've always been sort of a emotional, sensitive kind of person. I'm a water sign. I'm a Scorpio, so I've always thought a lot and overthought a lot. And I think that it's been a question that has, I guess, plagued me for so long. And we'll get into it a little bit more, but we can sometimes get to a place where we become hyper aware of who we are and if that aligns with what we think our purpose should be. And for me, my purpose showed up, or what I thought was my purpose or my identity, I guess, showed up in how I could be successful. I really tied...
Which I think a lot of people will relate to that.
Yeah, I really tied my value about who I was, how I showed up in this world, how I could give back to what my career was and what my job title was, how much money I'd be making,
achievements,
where,
success.
What opportunities I could have. So, really that story sort of started when I was 24 years old and I was working at my parents' salon. They own a salon and spa in Bedford. And I was living at home at the time. I just graduated from post-secondary school. So I went to St. FX for university, graduated, and then went to NSCC for another year. So I did 5 years. And so I'd graduated and I was living at home working for my parents, and I felt like I didn't have a relationship. I'd broken up with a 4-year relationship about a year earlier than that. And I just felt like I was watching everyone else kind of
start their
lives, and I didn't really know what the heck I was going to do. I had started a job right out of school that after 9 years kind of fell apart in the sense that the company was no longer existing. There were some fraudulent things. There was a lot of stuff that happened in the news with that company, which I won't get into. So they had to lay off all of their employees, which was only a few of us.
Yeah. But still hard to go through, though.
Yeah,
especially when you put that much time into a company. Like, you probably were anticipating you're going to stay there for at least a little bit longer.
Well, it was really fun. Like, we got, I met Tila Tequila. I was like her handler. Like, it was an events company. It was the first time I really got a taste of what digital marketing, which is my career today, what that looked like. I was managing, $15,000, $20,000 contracts for local restaurants
that feels
and companies.
Good, man.
I was 24 years old and didn't know what the hell I was doing. And anyway, so back to where I'm at now. I was 23 at the time, but now being 24, working at my parents, I was fighting a lot with my mom and dad, fighting a lot with everyone, and feeling super disconnected to the world. So I ran away, essentially. I remember,
she sure did.
Bluffing to my mom during a fight one day about, if whatever you say when you're a kid in young 20s and you're like, if you don't stop, I'm going to leave, I'm going to move away. And she looked up at me from the balcony, like the floor, I was over the balcony, and she's like, then move. And a few weeks later,
exactly what she did.
Yeah, I was gone. And so I moved to Edmonton, Alberta for a career opportunity, actually.
It's a big jump from little old Nova Scotia.
6 boxes. That's all I had. My life fit into 6 boxes. I didn't have
impressive.
Anything. I'd flown out there for a couple of days for an interview, and within those 4 days that I was there, I had signed a contract to a new career. I had signed a lease to a new condo. They call them condos out there, which was basically just an apartment.
Yeah.
And then signed a lease to a car. So my 3 C's, the triple C, seems like it's showing up in different ways. I also got a cat at the time, so 4 C's.
Yeah.
But yeah, within a couple of weeks, and then a month later, I was gone. I flew out there and started a job in digital marketing and got to go to England. I got to experience a lot of things, but then
a lot of big trips.
Yeah, I felt like I was finally finding my purpose again.
And you were age 24 still?
I was
25 probably?
25 at the time. So at this point, I would have been 25 years old. And then,
which, I'm only 26 right now. I definitely do not have my life figured out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of people at the age of young 20s to mid 20s or even late 20s, like, a lot of us are still in school. Some of us still live at home, you know what I mean? So, like, to get...
Oh, I felt like I was so old. My sister had moved out at 18. So me being 25 moving out.
There's also the other side of, like, the youngins that the first thing they do is get out of the house or move away from
I think
their provinces,
the first
hometowns.
child definitely, like, paves the way of being more independent. The second child's... My brother moved out at, I think, forgive me for my brother if I'm wrong, but he was like 30. So, 18, 25, then 30, we all kind of moved out at different times in our life. And
that's a good point.
I thought to myself, if I'm not out by 18, but again, I went to university for 4 years. I lived in Antigonish for those 4 years, and I was only home for a couple months during the summer. Yeah. So it kind of felt like I'd lived away.
You weren't really living at home.
Yeah. I lived with roommates in dorm rooms and in apartment style housing, and then in a house in our 4th year with 5 other girls. There were 6 of us. So that was a little taste of what independence.
Living out of the house.
But my mom was still paying a lot of my bills. Like, we'll get into that another episode. But back to being in Edmonton. After 9 months of being with this company, I actually lost my job. It was a pretty traumatic situation that had happened. And I won't get into that, but I found myself again, now 26 years old, no job out in Edmonton by myself.
Picked up and moved your whole life there.
Yeah, thought to myself, how am I? Now I have a car payment, I have a rent, I have all
Like
this stuff.
adult shit to take care of.
So I felt like I was literally like the whole world got swept up from under me, and the rug got pulled out, and I was falling apart. And I called my mom and my dad, and I remember being parked outside of the apartment. I hadn't even been able to get inside to the apartment because I was crying so hard, and I thought my life is over. Like, I came out here 9 months ago to try to make something of myself, and now I'm failing at that. I don't have anyone to lean on. I don't know what am I gonna do about a job. All this stuff started creeping up.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a hard thing to go through.
It was really difficult, and it was embarrassing. I felt like I had to prove myself, and I was finally, feeling like I was adulting, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Like you mentioned earlier, you rely so much on like that achievement and like having your shit together as an adult. Like that, like who you are as a person, that really hones in on your identity.
Yeah,
like makes
100%.
you feel, it brings you a sense of fulfillment in life, or even like purpose in your life, to know like I'm independent. Yeah. I can afford to have an apartment by myself. I'm getting a real big girl job, and I'm making my mark in the world kind of thing. I'm starting to take care of things, and my life is starting to pick up and get started on its big journey, and then to lose all that.
Not to mention the external validation. One of the biggest triggers I have is not feeling good enough. That's a big thing that has shown up in my life a lot. I mean, I'm a middle child, so I have self-proclaimed middle child syndrome. For any other middle child out there, you get it. If you're not, then it's really hard to kind of explain that. But yeah, the validation I was getting from other people, my mom and dad would talk to their friends or my family members. Oh, we have a daughter out in Edmonton, Alberta, the big money province. She's doing so well.
Doing it all herself.
And like finally, I was starting to feel like I was making my parents proud. Like, I know it was my dad's dream for me to be successful. And he, being an entrepreneur, used to joke to me all the time when I was young, or not joke to me, but I would joke about wanting to be an entrepreneur. I think that was like one of the first things I used to tell people when I was like 3 or 4 years old. They would ask me, the typical, what do you want to be when you grow up? And he'd whisper in my ear. I'd look up at him looking like, what do I say? And he would say entrepreneur, and I would be like entrepreneur, and they would be like, oh my god, you're so cute. And then he'd also whisper like lawyer, doctor, and I was telling these older people, at 3, 4 years old, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be a lawyer when I grow up, not really knowing what that meant, but they reacted with such admiration and pride for such a small child saying these things that again, they didn't know what I was saying.
Well, also back then, like entrepreneurship wasn't as common. There wasn't as many, like, obviously it was still a thing, but thinking now, like, everyone and their freaking mom and their cousin are doing their own side gig.
Yeah, you're an entrepreneur at 16 if you start your own website.
Yeah, but to think, like, back then, like, that would be
a little different. Yeah, back then. Back in the early 90s.
Let me throw her under the bus.
But no, honestly, I felt really like a failure, and I was struggling. I was getting to a point where I wasn't being able to pay my rent, and so I finally, put it out there. I got a new job, and I ended up starting to work for what I will still call to this day one of the best jobs of my life, which was at the Edmonton Humane Society, working as an in the education department, working as a humane educator for a couple years there. Obviously won't get into that either, but it was the first time at 27 years old, 25, 26 years old there, I felt like I actually found something that gave me joy. I was giving back to animals, which is a huge part of my life. Animal welfare, I absolutely adore them. I was learning from people who were older than me, but I was making $17 an hour and slowly going into excruciating debt. I was being fulfilled in my life from a jobs perspective, but every other area of my life was suffering. I was not being the person that I wanted to be outside of my job, which was funny because I think that was the first time that everything that I saw myself as at the time was really just my career. Like being in a job that made me happy was justifying all the other crap that was happening behind the scenes and all the things that I wasn't really paying attention to. My health, my relationships, my friends, like everything else. I was suffering so much at the end of the day, but it didn't matter because the second I went into that shelter and saw all my animals, it kind of like I got to focus on that and pretend that the other stuff didn't exist.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. I kind of want to elaborate a little bit more on that because I feel like a lot of people struggle, especially nowadays, hustle culture, right? Like so many, we're obviously speaking just from our personal experiences and how we identify. And I would say, obviously, like I haven't known you super long, but I knew right off the get-go from meeting you that you're a very career-oriented person. And that is something that I also find myself to be as well. Like we tie a lot of our personal successes into what we do for work and what we achieve and productivity and stuff like that. And I know that's also just the collective. Everyone is kind of going through that really, really heavily right now. But when you start to do something, whether it's a hobby, a passion, or you are so lucky that you get to do a job that brings you that, like you were saying, the joy and like the happiness
fulfillment,
and fulfillment, you suddenly, when you get that little taste, you look at everything else and you're like, that's not adding up. All of these other things, like your health, your relationships, maybe how you're showing up in your solo relationship with yourself, but also how you're showing up in your friendships, your relationships, partnerships, family, everything like that. Like you start to kind of see like, oh, I've been so focused on making my career work or making more money or trying to
proving everybody
trying to get that like success, like that hat to just be like, I'm successful, right? That to do that and to put that on a pedestal, you have to let all these other areas of your life kind of like they diminish. They're not in focus as much.
Well, I would sometimes stay at the shelter for hours after work or on weekends because we did do birthday parties on the weekends. We had staff that I was in charge of with my co-worker that we had to make sure knew everything that was happening on the weekend. And it was tough because there was also the compassion fatigue. Like I was exhausted, but I was still happy because I was doing something I loved. But I was eating out every day. I wasn't making myself lunch. It was like I'm adulting, as in the sense that I came out here to start a career and prove everybody wrong who thought maybe going out there I couldn't do it, or I'd come home within a year or whatever. So many people go out west to career
think they're gonna make all this money,
and then they come home only like a year later because they didn't make it,
more in debt or something.
Yeah, so I was like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. And I have a lot of pride when it comes to like wanting to make sure that people who have a specific perception or perspective about me, like I'm gonna prove them wrong.
Well, you don't want to feel like a failure for yourself, but you also don't want to look like a failure to other people.
And I didn't want to disappoint my parents. That was a big part of that. So needless to say, after a few years working there, I had gotten to a point where I'd come home one summer and my finances were in ruins. That I'd gone to a financial planner and she said, listen, Alex, she's like, you either make a choice to get another job or you're going to be bankrupt. And I'm thinking, a 26-year-old bankrupt person, like, what the hell? And I remember going back hard. Sneaking myself to one of those like cash advances places, those like sketchy places on the corner of like a downtown area where nobody goes. And I like had a hood on, and I remember putting my hood up. I was like, am I doing a drug deal? Like I was literally going to take out an extra $300 from this cash advance place to pay my rent that was coming out or had already come out, but I was in the red.
Listen,
and I felt
there.
like, oh my God, I can't believe like I'm doing that. So I ended up getting a second job and was working from 9 to 5 at my day job and 5:30 to 10 p.m. at the West Edmonton Mall, West Ed, and was working retail as a key manager, like a floor manager. So definitely burnt the F out at that time.
Well, like, where's the time for you or for focusing, like, all those things that we were just touching on, like, you were satisfying the fulfillment, but, like, your health wasn't doing well, your relationships weren't doing well, your personal, like, self, like, you start doing a job like that, you don't have the time to focus on yourself, you don't have the time to, heal things.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and meanwhile, I was like dating. I was trying to,
get
start
your life
a life.
going. Yeah.
So fast forward, I ended up quitting that job.
Wasn't sustainable.
Well, I tried to get a raise, and like within months of me quitting, I think like 8 or 9 of the staff members at this company ended up quitting. There was a whole thing that happened. It was a big kind of like walkout. It wasn't great, but I left for another job that I had only stayed in for 7 months. But it was, and I won't talk about this job either, but it was pretty hellish that I had been going from a place that I loved, doing a job that I loved every day, to working for a beauty supply distributor that
isn't fulfilling anymore.
No, well, my boss at the time was extremely toxic, very narcissistic, and wasn't in an environment that was great for me. So myself and 2 other women who had been hired within the same week all quit within like weeks of each other.
That's a sure sign.
Yeah. So fast forward to the job that I jumped into after that. So at this point now, I've been in Edmonton for a couple years. I've already gone through a few jobs.
Still trying, like a couple years there, but still trying
fighting
to make it work.
I remember
stay
I'd
afloat.
call my mom in the parking lot at lunchtime being like, I don't know what I'm doing. Why is this so hard? Why can't I figure this out? And then I landed at this job. And I remember during the interview, it was for a digital marketing company that was in the self-development space in personal transformation, self-discovery. And I remember reading the job interview, and it was very vague. It was like the curtains were pulled and you kind of didn't really know what the job was or what you'd be doing, but I felt really pulled towards this job. And I'd been working
like the idea of it.
Yeah, I'd been working in marketing for a couple of years, and the job was for a digital marketing specialist, but there was also a couple other jobs. There was a customer happiness manager job there, which was customer service. There was like another job. Anyway, I remember applying for every single one of these jobs that this company had put out there, and I'd
anything to get in.
Yeah, anything to get in. And I'd gone to the interview, and there was like 5 guys around my age, slightly older.
Oh my God, how intimidating.
It was very intimidating in this interview, and we were halfway through the interview, and I remember saying to them, what's the job that I'm actually interviewing for? And they were like, what? And I was like, I actually applied for every single one of the jobs that you have posted. I actually am not sure which one this is. Because like, when they called me, it wasn't like, or emailed me, that wasn't like, we want to interview you for, the digital marketing specialist job.
They just wanted
They
you
just
for
were like,
something.
we're going to call you in for an interview. So I went in, I remember, and they laughed. It was funny because they were young and they were really cool.
Yeah, I like that.
And they thought it was quite funny that I was admitting that it happened to be the digital marketing specialist job, which yay for me.
Yeah.
And I said to them, I was like, listen, I'm really green. I don't know what I'm doing. They had asked me what like an A/B split test in the digital marketing world. That's like the very bare minimum that you have to know. And I remember I had Googled it in the car in the parking lot, like waiting for my interview because I was there like an hour early.
Yeah, we've all been there, girls.
I was like, A/B split testing. What is this? And I gave them because they had asked me like an example of an A/B split test I had done, which at the time I'd done none.
Yeah.
And I kind of just said, listen, guys, like, I will clean your toilets. I will mop your floor. Like, please just hire me.
Get me in for something.
Like, remember, I was still at this other job with this toxic, boss and this horrible environment. I had
knowing
to quit
it's
that
coming
job.
to an end.
So I was really, like, I guess desperate to get out of there. They hired me, thank God.
Bless.
I had heard afterward, and this is something, I hate to admit, but I had heard afterward by a couple of the people after they'd become my good friends that they all talked about how hot I was and that there was not a lot of women in the office and that it would be nice to have a hot girl. So it was never about, the other skills that I was bringing to the table. It was a joke that, we hired you because you were hot.
Yeah.
And that the other candidate wasn't good looking. And that, at the time I laughed and was like, oh, I'm so flattered. But like deep down, it really
at the time
felt.
You're thankful for the job, but like.
It was like, what am I walking into?
Yeah, well, that's a terrifying thing.
It wasn't great, but, in the world of certain industries that are very male dominated. You kind of do what you got to do to get in.
Oh, girl, yeah.
And I stayed at this job for almost 6 years. It was just shy of 6 years. And I loved it. I had finally felt like I found my place. It was like we used to joke about it being like the mini Google of Alberta. It had pool tables and basketball nets, and we
So
traveled,
fun.
and I
Yeah.
got to go to Las Vegas and California and Arizona and different. I was meeting these millionaire people, like young people my age that were millionaires. I was being mentored by different people in the industry that I loved. We were selling things and delivering products and services that I really felt tied to, and I felt like, oh my god, I finally found my place. I found my purpose, essentially.
Yeah.
And, we're not going to get into the fact that I had been in a relationship at the time. Other things were happening. We'll talk about that at another time. But
For sure.
I absolutely was like, oh my God, this is
it.
this is who I'm
This
supposed
is
to
my
be.
break finally,
Yeah.
right?
And during that time, a lot of stuff had happened. And I felt like, let's take a pause here.
Let's take a pause.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Stay tuned for next week while we conclude this week's episode with Finding Your Purpose When Things Fall Apart, Part 2. We'll see you then.